Hello guys, welcome to Jummy Apparel YouTube channel. Today I'll be teaching us how to draft a basic skirt pattern. Okay, it's also a fitted skirt with high waistband. Alright, so if today is the first time you are visiting our channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment and share. And please turn on your notification bell. Okay, so these are the required measurements. We need our skirt length, the hip length, we need our waist circumference, and our hip circumference too. So the first thing we'll be doing here is that we'll be drawing out a margin line. Okay, as you can see, I've already drawn it out there. Alright, so the next thing is to measure the skirt length. So I'll be using 20 inches as my skirt length. Okay, so I'm going to mark out 20 inches from the edge of the line. That's from there. Okay, just that way. So I'm going to roll it out. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to divide my hip measurement into 4. Okay, that's my waistline. I'm using that margin as my waistline. Then the down part is the M line. Okay, so I'll be dividing my hip into 4. My hip is 42 divided by 4 is going to give me 10.5. So from the margin line as the waistline, so I'll mark out 10.5 inches. So at the M line too, I'm going to mark out 10.5. Alright, so I'm going to connect the lines together. Okay, so this place will be my center front, that's cut or fold. Okay, so the next thing I'll be doing is to mark out my hip length. Okay, my hip length is 9. You can measure yours, it can be 8 or 9. If it's a bigger size, it can be more than that, so you need to measure it. So mine is 9 inches. So from my waistline to the hip is 9. So I am going to mark it out like this. Alright, so after that, the next thing is I'm going to divide my waist measurement into 4. My waist is 34 divided by 4 is going to give me 8.5. So I'm going to mark out 8.5 from that edge, from the waistline. Okay, alright, so that's 8.5 plus 1 inch for that allowance. Okay, so I'll be connecting this line together. I'll connect from the waistline to the hip line, just like this. Okay, I'm trying to use my hip curve to connect the line together. Okay, so that's our base skirt. Now if you want to have a fitted skirt, so at the M line, okay, from the M line, okay, I'm going to come in by 2 inches. Yours can be 1 inch depending on how you want, or it can be more than that, 2 inches. So it can either be 1.5 or 2. So when it's very fitted, it can be 2.5. So I will be connecting it from the hip line down to the M line this way. Alright, so I'll be using my hip curve to blend that area together. Okay, alright, so we have our front pencil skirts now. So the next thing I'll be doing is that I'll need to to get our dart placement. My dart will be 4 inches. That's if my nipple is 8, then 8 divided by 2 is going to give us 4. So I'll be using 4 inches. That's from the waistline there, 4 inches. Okay, so that's for that. Okay, so the dart length for the front will be 4.5 inches. Yeah, 4.5 inches. Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to confirm if the measurement is accurate. So I'm going to connect the line together this way. Okay, please note that the front dart and the back dart are not the same measurements. You remember that we added 1 inch there, so we are going to place half inch for yeah, just that way. They connect it together. The 1 inch we added at the waistline, so for the dart, so I'm dividing into two, so it will stand for our dart measurement. All right, so we have our front darts now. Okay, all right, so at this edge, that place, we are going to come up by 0.75, that's quarter of an inch. Okay, we are going to come up by a quarter, so we are going to blend it back to the waistline. Just follow the way I'm doing it. So I'm using my hip curve. Okay, that blend area, I'm trying to use it to blend it together like this. Okay, so just follow it that way. Okay, so that the reason why we are doing this is that so that our skirts will not just be straight, so that we know our body is not straight. So that's the reason for this. So just follow the way I'm doing it like that. Okay, that edge 0.7 inch. Yes, then you blend it back to the waist front line. Okay, so I'll be using this front to cut out the back. I'll be using the front to cut out the back. I'll be adding for the back, I'll be adding zip allowance of 1.5 inch to it. So I'm going to cut it out now. Okay, so I'm cutting it out. Okay, so that's our front basic skirt. So I have used the front to cut the back, as we can see it there. Okay, so what are we going to do for the back too? So that's our zip allowance. Okay, so it's the same measurement, it's the same thing. So that's for back. I'm trying to label it. Okay, for here, okay, I fold it in when I wanted to draft it out. Okay, so that I will get a straight waistline, because the front and the back is not the same thing if you want to do that edge. So excuse me, that's why I have to fold it in this way, so when I want to draft the back, so that's the reason for that. So for the back, we are going to come up to by 0.7 inch. Yeah, at the hip line there, at the other side, at the same side, we are going to come up by 0.7 inch. Okay, before then, our dart, we need to mark out our dart for the back too. Okay, like I said earlier, the back dart is longer than the front dart. So for the front is 4.5, while for the back the length is 5.5. Okay, so that's it, 5.5. I'm going to connect the lines together now. So I'm trying to connect the lines together. Okay, there's 0.5 at the right side and also at the other side too. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect the lines together. Okay. All right, so we have our back dart. Then that place we are going to come up by 0.7 inches as we come up at the front too. If you can remember what we did at the front then. So we are going to come up by 0.7 inches. That's quarter of an inch. Okay, so we are going to blend it together this way. All right, we are going to blend it together. Okay, so at the zip line, okay, at the edge, we are going to start it from the zip line. So we are going to come down. You know, at the front we didn't come down, but for the zip line from that edge we are going to come down by half of an inch. So the reason for this, so that the back when we sit down is going to sit well on us. Okay, it's going to sit properly. So we are going to come down by half and then blend it together this way. Okay, so I have blended it together. You can see that I come down by 0.5 inch at the zip line there. Then I blend it together that way. Alright, so we have our back skirt pattern. Alright, so you remember I did not add any seam allowance or ease allowance to this. If you want to do your own, you can add ease allowance. The ease allowance can just be 0.5 inch. The meaning of ease allowance is for it not to be your exact measurement, for ease, so that the dress will not be too tight. After adding ease allowance, then you can add your sewing allowance of 1 inch or 1.5. It depends on you. Okay, I'm not going to add any ease or sewing allowance to this pattern now, so I'm cutting it out now. Okay guys, so we have our front and back basic skirt pattern now. It's fitted skirts, so we have it there now. All right, so the next thing we are going to do now is that we want to draft our band. So that's the next thing we want to do. So for the band, okay, we are going to fold in our dart this way. As you can see, I place another pattern paper under, so I fold my dart, then I use paper tape to secure it so that it will not be shaking when I'm doing it. So that's just the reason. So the next thing, from that edge excuse me please, we are going to come up by 3 inches from that edge. Okay, I'm using 3 inches as my band measurements. All right, so I'm going to connect the line together like so. It will be a straight line. It doesn't need to be curvy, please. All right, so like that. So I'm going to connect the line together by using the same 3 inches all round. Okay, I'm using 3 inches all round. You can use 2 inches, you can use 2.5, but it's an high waist skirt, so I'll be using 3 inches all round. If it's just a normal band like 2 inches, it's good, so you use the same method for it. So also I'm connecting the line like that. Okay, it's self-explanatory, so when you see what I'm doing, you'll be able to understand perfectly. Okay, so that's our front highway. So I'll be adding half inch seam allowance to this. Okay, I did not add any seam allowance to the bodies. Okay, sorry, to the pattern. So I'll be adding the allowance to this one. So in case if you want to draft your own, you can add the seam allowance to it. So I have finished with the front waistband now. Okay, so that's our center front. So we'll be doing the same thing for the back waistband too. So the same thing we did for the front. So I'm going to fold in our darts. Okay, we secure it. Then that's the zip. You start from the zip allowance, please. Okay, if you want to that, you start from the zip allowance. Then use the same method to connect the line together, 3 inches. Then connect it together also. Okay. So I'll be adding half-inch allowance to seam allowance to the back too. Please don't forget, if you want to draft your, or if you want to add the seam allowance, please try to add seam allowance to the pattern too, or you add it directly on your fabric, either of the two. Okay, so we have our back high waistband. Okay, so I'm going to cut. Okay, so yeah, so we have our band ready. So you can see that I fold the darts. So if I place it together, okay, as we can see at the edge there that it's remain half-inch. Remember that I did not add half-inch to the pattern while I was drafting it. Okay, that is the reason for that half-inch that remains. So if you want to draft, you can as well add the half-inch. I say seam allowance, please don't forget it's seam allowance. Then you add sewing allowance to like 1 inch or 1.5, depend on you, to the pattern paper and to the waistband too. So same thing applicable to the back too. Add seam allowance if you want to add seam allowance. Then also add your sewing allowance to your fabric. Then also add it, don't forget to add it to the waistband. Whatever you add to the bodies, also remember, whatever you add to the pattern, remember to add it to the waistband too. Okay, all right. Okay, so we have our basic skirt pattern, fitted skirt with high waist band ready. Please subscribe, like and share. Then please comment below if this video has been helpful to you. Thank you so much.